Have you ever wondered which creature in the ocean is one of the only males in the animal kingdom to actually get pregnant? Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of seahorses. Tiny, mysterious, and full of surprises you won't believe. Stick around, because their story flips everything you thought you knew about nature. In the shallow coastal waters of tropical and temperate oceans around the world, one of the most unusual creatures in the animal kingdom lives quietly among seagrass and coral. Seahorses are not like anything else in the sea. With their upright posture, horse-like heads, and curling prehensile tails, they seem like mythical beings more than real fish. Yet they are very real, and every part of their biology, from how they move to how they reproduce, challenges what we think we know about life underwater. Seahorses belong to the genus Hippocampus, a name that literally means horse sea monster in ancient Greek. There are about 46 recognized species of seahorses, and although they vary in size and coloration, they all share a set of core traits that make them stand out from other fish. They have bony exoskeletons made up of interlocking plates instead of scales. They swim upright rather than horizontally. Their bodies are stiff, and they lack caudal fins, relying instead on a small dorsal fin on their back to propel themselves through the water. This mode of swimming is slow and inefficient, making seahorses some of the worst swimmers in the ocean. Despite this, they have evolved to be highly effective predators and survivors in their own unique way. Seahorses are ambush predators. They feed mainly on small crustaceans, like copepods and amphipods. They rely on stealth and camouflage to blend into their surroundings, waiting for prey to drift by. When it does, they strike with lightning speed. Their long snouts act like a straw, and they use rapid suction to draw prey into their mouths. They have no teeth and no stomachs, which means food passes through them quickly, requiring them to eat almost constantly to stay alive. Some species can eat hundreds or even thousands of tiny prey items each day. Their eyes can move independently of each other, giving them a wide field of vision that helps them spot prey and predators alike. This chameleon-like feature is just one more strange adaptation in an animal full of evolutionary surprises. One of the most iconic features of seahorses is their tail. Unlike most fish, the tail of a seahorse is not used for propulsion, but for grasping. It is prehensile, meaning it can curl around objects and hold on to them like the tail of a monkey. This is crucial for their survival. Because they are such poor swimmers, seahorses often anchor themselves to seagrass, coral, or even floating debris to avoid being swept away by currents. Their tails are also used during mating rituals and social interactions. In fact, seahorses are known for their elaborate courtship behaviors, which can last for days and include color changes, synchronized swimming, and tail holding. These rituals help strengthen pair bonds and ensure reproductive success. Seahorses are monogamous in many species, at least during the breeding season and sometimes for life. This monogamy is rare among fish and adds another layer of intrigue to their social structure. But perhaps the most fascinating and well-known aspect of seahorse biology is the fact that it's the males who become pregnant. This reversal of traditional reproductive roles is almost unheard of in the animal kingdom, and has made seahorses the subject of extensive scientific study and popular fascination alike. The process begins with courtship, during which the male and female perform a daily dance, syncing their movements and sometimes changing color. These displays can go on for several days until the female is ready to transfer her eggs. The male seahorse has a specialized brood pouch on his abdomen, somewhat analogous to a kangaroo pouch, but functioning in a very different way. When the female is ready, she uses an ovipositor, a tube-like structure, to deposit her eggs into the male's pouch. This transfer can take several minutes and involves precise coordination between the two seahorses. Once the eggs are inside, the male fertilizes them and begins the process of gestation. The brood pouch is not just a container, it's a complex, vascularized organ that provides oxygen and nutrients to the developing embryos. The male's body carefully regulates conditions inside the pouch, maintaining salinity and temperature levels suitable for the growth of the young. This is one of the most direct forms of male parental investment in the animal world. Gestation. Length varies by species and environmental conditions, but it usually lasts from 10 days to 6 weeks. During this time, the male experiences hormonal changes similar to those of pregnant mammals. At the end of the pregnancy, the male goes into labor and expels the fully formed baby seahorses from his pouch through muscular contractions. Depending on the species, he may give birth to anywhere from a few dozen to over 1,000 offspring. This birthing process can last several hours and is physically taxing on the male, but it ensures that the young are born ready to face the world. Newborn seahorses are independent from the moment they emerge. They receive no parental care and must immediately begin feeding and avoiding predators. Their survival rate is low. Fewer than 1% of baby seahorses survive to adulthood. A high reproductive output helps offset these odds. The fact that males give birth allows females to start producing more eggs almost immediately after mating, increasing the overall reproductive efficiency of the pair. This system of male pregnancy is unique not only among fish, but among all animals, making seahorses one of the few species where males bear the burden of childbearing. Beyond reproduction, seahorses have several other adaptations that help them survive in their environments. One of their most important features is camouflage. Seahorses can change color to match their surroundings, blending into coral reefs, seagrass beds, and mangroves. Some species even grow skin filaments that mimic the appearance of algae or seaweed, enhancing their disguise. This camouflage is crucial for avoiding predators, which include crabs, rays, and larger fish. Because seahorses are poor swimmers and lack many traditional defenses, their best protection is invisibility. Their ability to remain motionless for long periods helps them stay hidden from both prey and danger. In some species, this camouflage is so effective that it takes expert eyes to spot a seahorse in the wild, even when looking directly at it. The structure of a seahorse's body is another key to its survival. Unlike most fish, seahorses have no ribs. Instead, their bodies are encased in a series of hard, bony plates arranged in rings. This exoskeleton provides protection from physical damage and predation, but it also limits flexibility. As a result, seahorses cannot bend their bodies like other fish. This rigidity contributes to their odd, upright swimming posture. They move by fluttering their dorsal fin up to 70 times per second, while using tiny pectoral fins on the sides of their head for steering. This method of propulsion is not energy efficient, but it works well enough for their slow, deliberate lifestyle. Seahorses also have no stomachs, which makes their feeding strategy highly specialized. Food passes through their digestive systems quickly, so they need to eat frequently, often continuously, throughout the day. This constant grazing is supported by their stealthy hunting method, where they wait in ambush and strike when prey comes near. Their suction feeding is both fast and effective, creating a vacuum that pulls prey into their tubular mouths before it has time to escape. This method works best with tiny organisms like mysid shrimp, which form the bulk of their diet. Despite their seemingly fragile nature, seahorses are remarkably resilient and adaptable. They can live in a variety of marine habitats, from coral reefs to muddy estuaries to mangrove forests. Some species even inhabit areas with fluctuating salinity, tolerating changes that would kill other fish. They are most often found in shallow, coastal waters, where dense vegetation offers both food and protection. Seahorses are also important indicators of environmental health. Because they are sensitive to habitat destruction and pollution, their presence or absence can tell scientists a great deal about the state of an ecosystem. Unfortunately, many species of seahorses are under threat. Habitat loss, driven by coastal development, pollution, and climate change, is a major factor in their decline. In addition, millions of seahorses are caught each year for use in traditional medicine, particularly in parts of Asia, where they are dried and ground into powder believed to treat a variety of ailments. Others are taken for the aquarium trade, where their specialized care requirements often lead to short lifespans in captivity. These pressures have led to declining populations in many parts of the world. In response, conservation efforts have begun to focus on protecting seahorse habitats and regulating trade through international agreements like CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. Some marine protected areas have also been established to safeguard seagrass beds and coral reefs that serve as critical habitat for seahorses. Captive breeding programs have also been established to reduce pressure on wild populations and to better understand the complex biology of seahorses. These programs aim to replicate natural conditions as closely as possible, allowing researchers to observe mating, gestation, and birth cycles in detail. Insights gained from such studies have helped inform conservation strategies and improve the care of seahorses in public aquariums. However, breeding seahorses in captivity is not easy. They require stable water parameters, specific diets rich in live foods, and minimal stress to thrive. Even under ideal conditions, not all attempts at captive breeding are successful, and maintaining genetic diversity remains a challenge. Nevertheless, these programs play a critical role in raising awareness and generating data needed to protect these fragile creatures in the wild. Education is a key component of seahorse conservation. Many people are unaware of just how unique and vulnerable these animals are. Campaigns that highlight their strange appearance, gender-bending reproductive roles, and ecological importance can help shift public perception and build support for conservation initiatives. Seahorses often serve as flagship species for marine conservation projects, drawing attention to the broader issues affecting coastal ecosystems such as pollution, overfishing, and climate-driven changes like ocean acidification and sea level rise. Their charismatic and unusual nature makes them ideal ambassadors for ocean health, and organizations around the world have used them to engage local communities and influence policy. There is still so much we do not know about seahorses. New species continue to be discovered, often in remote or poorly explored habitats. Advances in molecular genetics and underwater imaging have allowed scientists to revisit long-standing questions about seahorse classification, behavior, and evolutionary history. One intriguing area of research involves their development and how the genes responsible for body structure result in such a distinct form compared to other fish. For instance, seahorses have lost many of the genes that control the development of fins and other typical fish features. At the same time, they've evolved novel traits like their elongated snouts and grasping tails. Studying their DNA not only sheds light on their unique adaptations, but also provides clues about the broader mechanisms of vertebrate evolution. Seahorses belong to the family Cygnethidae, which also includes pipefish and sea dragons. All members of this family share certain features, such as tubular snouts and a general reliance on camouflage. However, seahorses are the only ones in the family that swim upright and have prehensile tails. This divergence likely occurred millions of years ago, and the exact evolutionary path they took is still being pieced together. Fossil records of seahorses are sparse due to their delicate structures, but the ones that have been found suggest they've maintained their general body plan for tens of millions of years. This evolutionary stability points to a body design that, while seemingly inefficient, works remarkably well for their specific lifestyle. Their distribution is global, but seahorses are most commonly found in warm, shallow waters or seagrass. Meadows, mangroves, and coral reefs provide ideal shelter and feeding grounds. Different species are adapted to different environments, and some are highly specialized. For example, the pygmy seahorse is so well camouflaged that it was only discovered when researchers were examining Gorgonian corals under a microscope. This tiny species, less than an inch long, blends perfectly with the coral's polyps, rendering it nearly invisible. On the other end of the spectrum, species like the pot-bellied seahorse can grow up to a foot in length and inhabit cooler, temperate waters around southern Australia. Coloration and morphology in seahorses are highly variable, even within a single species. They can change color depending on mood, environment, and social context. During courtship, for instance, they often brighten in hue to attract mates. Stress can also influence coloration, with seahorses sometimes turning pale when threatened or sick. These color changes are controlled by specialized cells in their skin, called chromatophores, which expand or contract to alter the way light reflects off their bodies. This ability adds another layer of camouflage and also plays a role in communication between individuals. Communication among seahorses is subtle but complex. In addition to color changes, they produce clicking or popping sounds during social interactions. These noises are made by rubbing specific parts of their skull together and are used in courtship, territorial disputes, and during feeding. While they lack vocal cords, their ability to produce sound plays an important role in maintaining pair bonds and expressing dominance or submission. Pair bonding is reinforced through daily greetings, where mated seahorses engage in brief dances that help them recognize each other and stay synchronized reproductively. This ritual is not only a display of affection, but also a practical method of ensuring their breeding cycles remain aligned. The issue of bycatch also threatens seahorse populations because they are small and often live in areas targeted by shrimp trawlers. They are frequently caught unintentionally in fishing nets. This form of incidental capture is one of the largest sources of seahorse mortality worldwide. In some regions, more seahorses are killed as bycatch than are harvested intentionally. Various strategies have been proposed to reduce this impact, including the use of bycatch reduction devices, stricter regulations, and improved fishing techniques. However, enforcement is often difficult in areas with limited resources or oversight. Addressing this problem requires cooperation between governments, fishing industries, and conservation groups. In addition to direct human threats, climate change poses a long-term risk to seahorses. Rising sea temperatures can disrupt their habitats, reduce the availability of prey, and alter the delicate balance of ecosystems they depend on. Ocean acidification, which results from increased CO2 absorption by seawater, can weaken the coral reefs and shellfish populations that are part of seahorses' food web. Storm intensity and frequency are also increasing, damaging shallow habitats and displacing both seahorses and their prey. These changes make it harder for populations to remain stable and reproduce successfully. Some species may adapt or shift their ranges, but many are likely to face steep declines without active intervention. Despite these challenges, there is reason for hope. Community-based conservation efforts have shown promise in protecting seahorse habitats while supporting local livelihoods. In areas where seahorses are traditionally harvested, some programs offer alternative income sources, such as ecotourism or sustainable aquaculture. Citizen science projects also allow divers and snorkelers to report seahorse sightings, contributing valuable data for researchers and helping track population trends. The more people become involved in understanding and protecting seahorses, the greater the chance of ensuring their survival. Culturally, seahorses have captured the human imagination for centuries. They appear in myths, legends, and artworks from around the world. Ancient Greek and Roman mythology depicted them as divine creatures pulling the chariots of sea gods. In Chinese culture, Dried seahorses have long been considered symbols of strength and are used in traditional medicine. In modern times, their delicate beauty and unusual biology make them popular subjects for photography and art. Yet their symbolic importance also puts them at risk, especially when demand for ornamental or medicinal use goes unchecked. From a scientific perspective, seahorses offer a window into some of the most curious possibilities of evolution. Their bodies are engineered in ways that defy conventional logic, yet work astonishingly well for their niche. Their mode of reproduction turns gender roles upside down and forces us to rethink assumptions about biology and parenting. Their fragility, both literal and ecological, reminds us how interconnected all life in the ocean truly is. As we learn more about them, we begin to see that seahorses are not just oddities of nature, but intricate examples of how evolution can take the unexpected and make it thrive. Understanding seahorses isn't just about appreciating their uniqueness. It's about seeing the bigger picture of marine life, adaptation, and the impact humans have on even the smallest corners of the sea. Every seahorse, from the camouflaged pygmy hiding in coral to the large, swaying individuals clinging to seagrass, is a living story of survival against the odds. And in protecting them, we protect a piece of the ocean's mysterious and beautiful complexity. Even though they appear delicate and fragile, seahorses demonstrate a quiet resilience that underscores their evolutionary success. Their ability to adapt to specific ecological niches, develop intricate reproductive strategies, and exhibit precise camouflage illustrates nature's creative ingenuity. But their survival depends not just on their adaptations, but on how well we protect the ecosystems they rely on. Coastal habitats like seagrass meadows, mangrove forests, and coral reefs are among the most threatened environments on Earth. These habitats are vital not only to seahorses, but to countless marine organisms. When these ecosystems are destroyed by pollution, trawling, sedimentation, or warming waters, the intricate balance that supports seahorses begins to collapse. One important conservation tool being used is the establishment of marine protected areas, or MPAs. These are zones where human activity is restricted or carefully managed to allow ecosystems to recover and thrive. MPAs that include seagrass beds and coral reefs have been shown to increase biodiversity, support fish populations, and give seahorses a safe haven in which to feed and reproduce. When properly enforced and managed with the cooperation of local communities, MPAs can be a powerful strategy for reversing the decline of seahorse populations. Education and public involvement are key to making these efforts work in the long term. When communities understand the role seahorses play in marine ecosystems, and when they see the economic value of healthy oceans through tourism and sustainable practices, they become more invested in protecting their coastal resources. Scientific research continues to uncover new aspects of seahorse biology. For instance, the way seahorses hunt has been studied using high-speed cameras, revealing a specialized mechanism in their heads called pivot feeding. When prey is detected, seahorses use a sudden, rapid movement of the head to create suction, allowing them to capture prey with incredible precision and speed. This movement is so fast and accurate that it has inspired biomechanical studies and even robotics design. Similarly, studies into the structure of their tails have shown that their square cross-section, unlike the cylindrical tails of most other animals, makes them stronger and more resistant to crushing, while still allowing for flexibility and grip. Engineers have taken interest in this design, considering it for use in robotic arms and medical devices. These examples show how studying animals like seahorses can lead to innovations beyond biology. The reproductive system of the male seahorse also continues to fascinate scientists. The brood pouch is not just a passive vessel, it is a dynamic organ with immune functions, hormonal regulation, and the ability to transport gases and nutrients to the embryos. Some researchers compare it to a primitive placenta, and studying it could provide insights into how pregnancy evolved in other animals, including mammals. In fact, some of the same hormones involved in human pregnancy, such as prolactin and oxytocin, play roles in male seahorse gestation, suggesting that certain reproductive mechanisms may be more deeply conserved across species than previously thought. Investigating these connections helps deepen our understanding of reproductive biology and the diversity of life's solutions to similar challenges. Another growing area of interest is the role of microbiomes in seahorse health. Just like humans and many other animals, seahorses have communities of bacteria living on and inside their bodies. These microbes can influence everything from digestion to immunity, and may even play a role in successful reproduction. Understanding how these microbial communities function and how they are affected by environmental stressors is becoming a critical part of marine biology. As researchers dive deeper into the hidden layers of seahorse physiology, they not only reveal the complexity of these creatures, but also develop tools for better conservation and care in both wild and captive settings. Technology is also helping us monitor seahorse populations more effectively. Divers and snorkelers equipped with underwater cameras are now contributing photos to global databases, where artificial intelligence can identify species, track individuals, and map habitats. Programs like iSeahorse, run by Project Seahorse, invite citizen scientists to log their sightings, providing valuable data to researchers around the world. These community-driven efforts help bridge the gap between professional science and public participation, empowering people to take part in real-world conservation and research. With enough data, scientists can detect population trends, understand migration patterns, and respond more effectively to threats as they arise. The emotional appeal of seahorses also plays a powerful role in driving support for conservation. Their expressive faces, gentle movements, and unusual mating habits resonate with people in ways few other fish do. They evoke wonder and empathy, qualities that are essential when trying to inspire action and care for the natural world. Unlike predators or pests, which often struggle to gain sympathy, seahorses fit the mold of animals people want to protect. This emotional connection can be harnessed to foster broader environmental awareness. When people fall in love with seahorses, they also begin to care about the places they live, the creatures they eat, and the oceans they call home. Art and storytelling have long played a part in this process. From ancient mosaics to modern children's books, seahorses have inspired creativity and imagination for thousands of years. Their almost fantastical appearance makes them perfect symbols of the mystery and magic of the ocean. Films, documentaries, and social media content that feature seahorses help bring their stories to wider audiences, many of whom may never have seen one in real life. This storytelling is not just about facts, it's about building connections and sparking curiosity, which often leads to deeper engagement with science and conservation. The future of seahorses is uncertain, but it is not hopeless. As awareness grows, so does the momentum for meaningful change. Through research, education, protected areas, and responsible trade regulation, we have the tools to ensure that these extraordinary animals continue to thrive. Protecting seahorses requires a multifaceted approach, one that addresses habitat conservation, fishing practices, global trade, and public attitudes all at once. It is not easy, but the rewards are profound. Saving seahorses means saving biodiversity, preserving delicate marine ecosystems, and respecting the intricate web of life that supports all species, including our own. One of the most powerful lessons we can take from seahorses is that nature does not always follow our expectations. Evolution finds surprising, sometimes beautiful, ways to solve life's problems. By studying these creatures, we learn not only about them, but about ourselves, about how we think, what we value, and how we fit into the larger story of life. On Earth, in the end, seahorses are more than just oddities or curiosities. They are symbols of adaptation, survival, and the wonder of biological diversity. And as long as they drift and dance through the world's coastal waters, they will continue to remind us of how much we still have to learn and how much we still have to protect. Despite the challenges seahorses face in the modern world, there are encouraging signs of progress in how they are being understood and protected. Researchers and conservationists are not working in isolation. They are partnering with fishers, policymakers, educators, and local communities to create a broader network of stewardship for these remarkable creatures. In places like the Philippines and Indonesia, where seahorses are traditionally harvested, sustainable practices are being introduced that allow people to earn a living without exhausting wild populations. These include community-managed marine reserves, seasonal harvesting bans, and size limits designed to ensure that breeding adults are not removed before they have reproduced. Such practices not only benefit seahorses, but also help restore balance to marine ecosystems more generally. Healthy seagrass beds and coral reefs do not just support seahorses. They provide nursery grounds for a wide range of marine life, protect coastlines from erosion, and store large amounts of carbon, making them important allies in the fight against climate change. When people protect seahorse habitats, they are also investing in long-term ecological and economic stability. The value of these ecosystems goes far beyond what can be measured in trade or tourism. It extends into the deeper fabric of ocean life itself. One of the more surprising areas of seahorse research is their potential to act as biological indicators. Because they are sensitive to changes in their environment, the presence or absence of seahorses can offer clues about the health of an ecosystem. This makes them useful for monitoring the impacts of climate change, pollution, and coastal development. For example, a sudden drop in local seahorse sightings could signal problems with water quality or habitat degradation. By tracking these changes over time, scientists can identify trends and take action before more widespread damage occurs. There is also growing interest in how climate change might directly affect the biology of seahorses. Some studies suggest that rising ocean temperatures could alter their reproductive cycles, growth rates, and behavior. Warmer waters may shorten gestation periods in some species, but they could also increase stress on pregnant males, leading to smaller broods or lower survival rates among the young. Changes in ocean chemistry could also affect the development of seahorse embryos, especially in species that rely on calcium to build their bony plates. These shifts might seem small, but over time, they can reshape populations and affect their ability to adapt and persist. At the same time, technological advances are allowing us to study seahorses in ways that were impossible just a few decades ago. Tiny tags and tracking devices are now being used to follow individual seahorses in the wild, giving researchers unprecedented insights into their daily movements, territory sizes, and mating habits. Genetic studies have helped clarify relationships between different species, revealing cases of hidden diversity where animals that look similar are actually genetically distinct. This has led to the discovery of several new species in recent years, as well as a better understanding of which populations may be most at risk. Genetics has also helped answer questions about how seahorses evolved. Their unusual body shape is believed to have developed gradually, starting with ancestral pipefish that began to move more vertically and developed greater flexibility in their snouts and necks. Over millions of years, these changes accumulated, resulting in the upright posture, horse-like head, and curled tail we see today. This transition likely provided advantages in certain environments, allowing these early seahorses to become better at ambush hunting and camouflage in vertical seagrass habitats. The end result is a creature that looks unlike any other, but is perfectly suited to its way of life. Some scientists believe seahorses may also hold the key to understanding how parental investment evolves across species. The idea that males would take on pregnancy was once thought nearly impossible. Yet in seahorses, it has become an essential part of their reproductive strategy. The evolutionary pressures that led to this reversal are still being studied, but it is clear that in the seahorse world, investing in offspring is not a job limited to females. Male pregnancy allows females to invest energy in producing more eggs, while males take on the burden of gestation. This division of labor increases the reproductive output of the pair and may provide an evolutionary advantage in environments where mates are scarce or where predation on eggs is high. Another fascinating detail is the way seahorses regulate the internal environment of the brood pouch. During pregnancy, the male adjusts the salinity of the pouch to slowly match that of the surrounding seawater. This gradual change helps the developing embryos acclimate to life outside the pouch, improving their chances of survival once they are born. The pouch also supplies nutrients and oxygen, removes waste, and provides immune protection. This level of physiological control is remarkable and shows how highly specialized the seahorse has become in its role as a pregnant father. Young seahorses are miniature versions of adults, and their first days are perilous. They must find food, avoid predators, and learn to navigate their environment with no help at all. Because they are so tiny and vulnerable, the vast majority do not survive. But those that do grow quickly, feeding on small crustaceans and gradually developing the strength and coordination needed to hunt and anchor themselves effectively. In just a few weeks, the survivors will be large enough to consider mating, continuing the life cycle that makes seahorses so unique among vertebrates. Their importance extends beyond biology. As ambassadors of the ocean, seahorses remind us that even the smallest and slowest creatures can play essential roles in their ecosystems. They are not fast swimmers. They are not powerful predators. They do not command attention through size or strength. Yet they thrive through subtlety, adaptation, and cooperation. Their survival depends not on domination, but on balance with their habitat, with their mates, and with the sea itself. In a time when many marine species face extinction, seahorses stand as a symbol of both vulnerability and hope. They teach us that nature is full of surprises, and that every organism, no matter how strange or delicate, has its place in the web of life. By protecting seahorses, we do more than save an odd-looking fish. We defend a vision of the ocean that is rich, diverse, and filled with wonder. We affirm that even the most unusual life forms deserve a chance to flourish. And we remind ourselves that the health of the sea, like the seahorse itself, is worth every effort to preserve. Seahorses are not only creatures of biological curiosity, but also of cultural significance across many civilizations and time periods. In ancient Greek mythology, they were associated with Poseidon, god of the sea, and often depicted pulling his chariot through the waves. These symbolic associations highlighted their mysterious nature and their apparent blending of forms, part horse, part fish, entirely unfamiliar. In Chinese culture, seahorses were believed to be a type of sea dragon, an animal revered for its power and fortune. Even today, in traditional Chinese medicine, dried seahorses are used in remedies believed to enhance vitality and treat various ailments, though there is little scientific evidence supporting these claims. The high demand for dried seahorses in the traditional medicine market has led to their extensive harvesting from the wild, contributing to population declines and ecological stress. Global trade of seahorses, both legal and illegal, continues to be a major issue, with millions of individuals exported annually. Many of these are caught as bycatch and trawl fisheries, while others are directly targeted. Despite regulations in place under international agreements like CITES, Illegal trade remains rampant due to lack of enforcement, insufficient monitoring, and continued consumer demand. This trade does not only affect seahorses themselves, but also disrupts the broader ecosystems they inhabit, since they are both predator and prey, and contribute to the overall balance of marine life. Education and public outreach are vital to reversing this trend. When people become aware of the ecological roles seahorses play and the threats they face, attitudes can shift. Programs aimed at reducing demand for seahorse products by offering culturally respectful alternatives and promoting awareness have shown promise in some regions. At the same time, ecotourism ventures that offer responsible snorkeling or diving experiences can help local communities generate income while protecting seahorse habitats. In many parts of Southeast Asia and Australia, small-scale conservation-driven tourism has become a valuable tool for protecting seahorses, educating the public, and providing sustainable livelihoods. These programs work best when local communities are involved from the outset, given that their traditional knowledge, stewardship, and daily interactions with marine environments make them ideal partners in conservation. Another powerful way to protect seahorses is through habitat restoration. Seagrass beds, mangroves, and coral reefs are some of the most productive and diverse habitats on Earth, and they are also some of the most threatened. Restoring these ecosystems does not just help seahorses, but supports entire communities of marine organisms and can have far-reaching benefits for fisheries, carbon sequestration, and climate resilience. In recent years, organizations have begun replanting seagrass and rebuilding artificial reefs in areas where degradation has occurred. These efforts can be expensive and logistically complex, but when done correctly, they lead to long-term recovery and stability. Restoration projects also provide opportunities for collaboration between scientists, governments, NGOs, and local people, creating a sense of shared responsibility and accomplishment. In some regions, environmental education is now being integrated into school curricula, encouraging young people to take an interest in marine conservation and seahorse protection from an early age. There is also a growing movement to reduce human impacts through better regulation of fishing practices. Bottom trawling, which involves dragging heavy nets across the sea floor, is particularly destructive and often results in large numbers of unintended catches, including seahorses. Advocacy for gear restrictions, no-trawl zones, and bycatch reduction technologies is gaining momentum among conservation groups and responsible fishers alike. In some countries, legislation has been passed to require the use of escape vents or mesh sizes that reduce seahorse bycatch. However, policies alone are not enough. Effective enforcement, ongoing monitoring, and transparency are critical to ensuring that rules have real-world impact. Engaging the fishing community as partners, rather than adversaries, is often key to making sustainable change possible. When fishers understand the importance of conserving seahorses and how doing so can benefit their own long-term livelihoods, they are more likely to participate in meaningful solutions. Scientific advances continue to illuminate how complex and nuanced seahorse biology really is. For example, recent studies have shown that seahorse embryos may be able to sense environmental conditions even before birth. Variables such as temperature, salinity, and even pollutants may affect development inside the male's brood pouch, potentially influencing the health, size, and behavior of newborns. This means that seahorses are not only shaped by their genetics, but also by the environments in which they are conceived and gestated. Understanding this process could have implications for how we think about development in other species and could help inform breeding programs aimed at preserving genetic diversity and increasing survival rates in captivity. Captive breeding has emerged as one of the most promising conservation tools, especially for species that are critically endangered or heavily exploited in the wild. Breeding seahorses in aquariums is a delicate process requiring careful attention to water quality, temperature, light cycles, and diet. Because seahorses rely on live food like brine shrimp and copepods, maintaining a steady food supply is one of the most challenging aspects of keeping them in captivity. Additionally, some species are more adaptable to captive conditions than others. While species like the lined seahorse and the dwarf seahorse have been successfully bred in public and private aquariums, others have proven much more difficult to maintain. Captive breeding not only reduces pressure on wild populations, but also offers a chance to study behaviors and biological processes that are difficult to observe in the wild. It can also serve as a backup population in case of catastrophic decline in natural habitats. However, captive programs must be carefully managed to avoid issues like inbreeding, disease, and loss of natural behaviors. Reintroducing captive bred individuals into the wild presents its own challenges and must be done with consideration of genetic compatibility and ecological balance. As we deepen our understanding of these animals, we also become more aware of the delicate balances that allow them to survive. Seahorses depend on slow rhythms of tides, of seasons, of reproductive cycles that are increasingly being disrupted by human activity. Climate change is accelerating these disruptions, making it harder for seahorses to find mates, raise young, and maintain their populations. Ocean warming can cause shifts in the distribution of suitable habitats, forcing some populations into deeper or more marginal waters where survival is harder. Meanwhile, ocean acidification threatens the structural integrity of coral reefs and shell-forming organisms, which can indirectly affect seahorse food availability and shelter. Extreme weather events like hurricanes and typhoons can also devastate shallow coastal zones, uprooting seagrass beds and scattering delicate marine communities. To protect seahorses effectively, we must address both the direct and indirect threats they face. This means protecting habitats, regulating trade, reducing bycatch, and combating climate change at its root. It also means rethinking our relationship with the ocean as a whole. The oceans are not infinite or immune to human influence. They are dynamic, interconnected systems that respond to our actions. By viewing seahorses not just as exotic curiosities, but as indicators of ocean health and examples of nature's ingenuity, we create space for deeper respect and responsibility. Every conservation success story, no matter how small, is a testament to what is possible when knowledge, compassion, and commitment come together. Ultimately, seahorses are a mirror reflecting both the fragility and resilience of life in the sea. They show us that survival does not always belong to the biggest or the fastest, but sometimes to the quietest, most adaptable, and most curious. In their strange bodies, we find inspiration. In their inverted roles, we find a challenge to traditional assumptions. And in their precarious future, we find a call to action. If we want future generations to marvel at the gentle dance of seahorses among the seagrass, then we must act now to ensure that these creatures continue to thrive in the high, wild oceans they have called home for millions of years. Whether seen as scientific wonders, ecological indicators, or cultural symbols, seahorses deserve not only our fascination, but also our protection. Through sustained effort and global cooperation, we can ensure that the story of seahorses is not one of decline and disappearance, but of resilience, recovery, and renewed harmony between people and the sea. Their survival hinges on how effectively we translate fascination into action, and how sincerely we treat the ocean, not as a resource to exploit, but as a living system to protect. Every seahorse species, from the common line seahorse found in the western Atlantic to the tiny, exquisitely camouflaged pygmy seahorse of the Indo-Pacific, represents a thread in the intricate fabric of marine biodiversity. These creatures, though small and often elusive, embody many of the same pressures that larger, more visible marine animals face. including habitat destruction, pollution, overfishing, and climate change. But unlike some larger species, they do not often spark immediate urgency in the public consciousness, which makes education and advocacy all the more important. Documentaries, articles, and social media platforms have begun to fill this gap, highlighting seahorses not only for their unusual appearance or role-reversing reproduction, but for the critical messages they carry about the health of our oceans. The more we study them, the more we uncover surprising details. For example, recent genetic analyses have revealed that some populations once thought to belong to the same species are actually genetically distinct and geographically isolated. These cryptic species may look identical to the naked eye, yet differ in behavior, habitat preference, or reproductive traits. Recognizing this hidden diversity is essential for conservation planning. Protecting a population in one region may do little for another population elsewhere if they are genetically separate and adapted to different environments. These findings further emphasize the importance of localized conservation strategies that consider not only habitat, but also the specific needs and characteristics of individual populations. As we continue learning more, we also become increasingly aware of how interconnected ocean life truly is. The health of seahorses is tied to the health of coral reefs, which are tied to water temperature, which is tied to atmospheric carbon levels. No piece of this puzzle exists in isolation. Seahorses rely on the availability of prey species, like copepods and missid shrimp, which in turn depend on microscopic plankton and clean, nutrient-balanced waters. A decline in one level of this chain can ripple upward and affect the entire system. This fragility is part of why seahorses serve as such effective sentinels. When their populations decline, it is often a sign that something much larger is going wrong beneath the surface. Despite these vulnerabilities, there are inspiring stories of resilience and recovery. In some areas where protective measures have been implemented, seahorse populations have begun to stabilize or even increase. Coastal restoration efforts have seen degraded habitats come back to life, bringing not just seahorses, but an entire suite of marine creatures along with them. Community-led monitoring programs have empowered local residents to track and protect their marine environments, creating a sense of ownership and stewardship that goes far beyond any single species. These efforts demonstrate what can happen when knowledge, policy, and grassroots action align. One particularly innovative approach involves using seahorses as flagship species to rally support for broader marine conservation. Because of their charisma and the fascination they inspire, seahorses can draw public attention to issues like trawling, coral bleaching, and ocean acidification in ways that statistics alone cannot. By centering campaigns around these visually striking and behaviorally unique animals, organizations can engage a wider audience, especially among younger generations. In educational settings, seahorses provide an accessible entry point for discussing complex topics like evolution, sexual selection, and ecosystem interdependence. Teachers and conservationists alike have used their story to introduce students to the broader challenges facing marine life and to encourage action at both local and global levels. Technology continues to support these efforts in new ways. Underwater, drones, remote sensing tools, and genetic barcoding are helping researchers map seahorse habitats, track their movements, and identify individuals in the wild. These tools make it easier to gather long-term data, detect illegal harvesting, and evaluate the effectiveness of conservation strategies. Citizen science platforms are also becoming more sophisticated, allowing divers to upload geotagged images and contribute to global databases that scientists can analyze in real time. This kind of data is invaluable for identifying population trends and threats early, giving conservationists a better chance at intervening effectively. But in the end, The future of seahorses will not depend solely on technology or science. It will depend on human values, on whether we see creatures like seahorses as worthy of protection for their own sake, not just for what they can offer us. It will depend on whether we are willing to change how we live, fish, build, and consume, in order to leave space for these ancient and fragile animals to continue their quiet existence in the sea. And it will depend on whether we are able to connect our sense of wonder with a sense of responsibility. When people look at a seahorse, they often feel something beyond simple curiosity. They feel surprise, delight, even reverence. These emotions can be powerful motivators. If we can harness them, not just for fleeting admiration, but for lasting commitment, then there is hope not only for seahorses, but for the countless other forms of life that share our blue planet. The story of the seahorse is one of adaptation, fragility, and resilience. It is the story of a creature that defies expectations, lives by its own rules, and continues to survive in a world that is changing rapidly around it. In their curved tails and watchful eyes, in their daily rituals and impossible pregnancies, seahorses carry lessons about cooperation, evolution, and the surprising ways life finds to endure. We may never fully understand every mystery they hold, but the effort to learn, to protect, and to respect them is worthwhile in itself. For in saving seahorses, we do more than preserve a single genus of fish. We affirm the beauty and complexity of the natural world and our place within it. We show that we are capable of recognizing value in the small, the strange, and the silent. And we remind ourselves that the ocean, vast and ancient though it is, depends on our care as much as we depend on its generosity. Let this be a call, not just to admiration, but to action. Let every child who marvels at the sight of a seahorse learn not just its name, but its story. Let every diver who finds one tucked in seagrass feel the weight of that moment and what it means. And let every policy made for the sea consider the creatures who live not at the center of attention, but in the quiet corners of the tide. For it is often in those corners that the most extraordinary lives unfold, unnoticed, but not unworthy. And if we choose to protect them, perhaps one day the oceans will be not just cleaner or richer, but more whole alive with stories like that of the seahorse, still being written beneath the waves. Thanks for swimming through the amazing world of seahorses with me. If you thought these little creatures were just cute, think again. Their unique way of life shows just how incredible nature can be. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a fascinating ocean story. What other underwater mysteries do you want to explore next? Let me know in the comments.